Las Vegas, Nevada, where every racer in the Score H.D.R.A. series is hoping that Lady Luck smiles on him today as we're getting ready for the 3rd annual Gold Coast 300. Hello again, everybody. I'm Marty Reid, and as always, working alongside is Jerry Garrett, and an interesting race with only 2 events to go because we are down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to points, Jerry.
We're going to be keeping track of 3 divisions specifically today, Marty. Class 8, Class 7, and Class 7S, where there's some real competition.
Let's take a look at the points in Class 8, and we'll give you just an idea how close this battle really is.
In Class 8, we have a mathematical chance there for the top 4 drivers, but really it's down to the top 2, Frank Vessels and Robby Gordon, and those are the 2 drivers that went after it all the way last year. In Class 7, Mears and Manny Esquerra are only apart by 1 point. That's the closest race in that division in a long time. In Class 7S, Rob MacCachren has a fairly comfortable lead, but Scott Douglas and Spencer Lowe still have a chance to get him.
Now is the man who's traded in his Army fatigues for race uniform, Tony Becker. And the first time we met, was at the Mint 400. And I got to admit, I'm a little surprised to see you coming back so soon.
Well, it took a lot of conniving and talking and fast footwork. But I was fortunate when we did that Mint, I met some of the people from General Tire, and I met Dave Shoppe, of course. And through some correspondence and kind of getting along real well and a good relationship, I was fortunate enough that he asked me if I'd come out here. And I jumped at the chance.
Now, somebody at home is going to be wondering, why do this? The Mini Mint, you were just out there on a tour of the course. You weren't racing. You're in a real race here.
Well, now that I think about this, I have some friends in my neighborhood that run a Class 9 TNT racing, the trees and things, guys, and they got me into it in a 9 car, which is a single shock, very difficult car to ride in. And when Dave Shoppe asked me to do this, how could I not, and how would these guys in my block not let me ride in a Class 8 truck? The experience and the energy and all the excitement out here, it's a chance of a lifetime, and I hope it continues.
Well, we're going to put you to work also because during your first lap, we're going to hover overhead in our helicopter and talk to you with the air-to-ground communication system to get your impressions as they occur in the race.
Well, I'm going to give you as much as I can. I remember watching the production of the Mint when you did that also with the co-drivers, and now there's professional co-drivers sitting in there that are very calm in a vehicle, and they spoke as if they were sitting at home in the living room. I hope I'm half that calm, and I hope you can understand what I say, but I'll try and tell you.
So in other words, we should be ready for some loud screams when we get overhead. But you're going to have a tough job because one other element we should point out, there is no pre-running for the first time on any of the course for this event. It means co-riders are going to have to be alert for those big boulders jumping up and biting you when you least expect it. Stay with us. When we come back, Tony will be getting into the truck. We'll be going to the starting line for the start of the 3rd annual Gold Coast 300. Marty Reid and Jerry Garrett back with you, and that's an aerial view of the starting line for this year's Gold Coast 300. 15 miles south of Las Vegas in the little town of Jean, and that is Tony Becker, now in race uniform and climbing into the truck with Dave Shoppe in the General Tire Ford, Jerry.
Too late to turn back now, but I'm not sure he would, even if he could, Marty.
He has been pumped up about this opportunity for weeks. Let's take a look now at the layout that they're going to be running. 76 miles in length, and that one area off to the right is probably one of the most challenging.
It is very high. It's a mountain pass. It's also very dangerous. Plenty of drop-off there. A lot of dust, silt, and hidden rocks out here today, Marty.
There'll be 4 laps around the 76-mile course here at the Gold Coast 300, and there is Dave Shoppe putting the helmet on, making the final preparations as they are in line. They will start behind the Class 2s and 1s. In fact, there is the first vehicle off the starting line. It'll be Corky McMillin at the wheel, but without pre-running, is the first starting position all that valuable anymore?
I guess it's always an advantage to be out in front pre-running, but I think out in front in a race, but when you haven't pre-run, I'm not sure that 2nd or 3rd isn't a better spot because it's a lot easier to follow a car than it is to lead one unless you're in familiar territory.
Well, we have got a near perfect day for racing in the desert except for the wind. Jerry, racers need that light breeze to clear the dust, and the wind is not expected to come up until later in the race.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of wind later in the race. Last time out here, we remember that the wind got so bad they had to call the race off.
Well, we're now ready for Corky McMillin to take the green flag and get this year's running of the Gold Coast 300 underway. Brian Ewald beside him. Both of them live in Bonita, California. Chenoweth chassis and a Porsche power plant.
Next up, Gary Himes and John Bellew. These are all Class 2 two-seat buggies starting now. Single-seat buggies come next. and then the trucks. They're all starting 30 seconds apart.
This is the brand new Armstrong Funko Mazda built by Gil George and driven by Son Grant. Now, Jerry took a look at this radically designed vehicle before today's race.
Now, this may look like a Mazda desert racing truck, but it's actually more of a Group B rally car than a race truck. It's got a Mazda 13B racing engine, just like you see in IMSA or rally cars, but the big thing about this engine is it's located midship, so it helps with the weight distribution. The unique thing about the suspension is that it's an active type suspension. It's all airbag. Instead of inches of travel, it's all done with spring rates. When you get up in the air, instead of the wheels drooping down, the wheels stay taut. When it lands, the suspension's ready to go. Another unique aspect is that it's full-time four-wheel drive. That lets you run a little bit narrower tire than you might expect to find on a truck. This is more like a buggy tire, but it is very fast. The big thing about this is, though, is weight. It is 1,500 to 1,000 pounds lighter than a conventional truck. And at that light weight, when they get it all sorted out, this should really devour the desert.
In a way, the Mazda reminds me of this truck, the Toyota of Ivan Stewart, as we're now into the Class 1 single-seat unlimited vehicles. They debuted this truck last year and had some problems to work out, but finally won the Mint 400 this year.
Now into the Class 8s. Here is the Ford of Robby Gordon. Robby needs to finish today ahead of Scoop Vessels to catch up to him in the points lead. And Marty is with Scoop right now for a word on that points chase.
You've got the lead over Robby Gordon. You know he's going to put the pedal down. What's going to be your strategy?
Well, I got to do the same thing. We found a little extra speed out of this Chevrolet. Everything's working good. The tires are working good, and so that's what I've got to do too. It's a 300-mile race. These trucks are built to go 1,000, and I'm going to use 1,000 miles up of this truck in 300 miles.
Now on the line, Steve McEachern. Steve's only previous victory was a surprise win at Parker last year. Listen to that Dodge sing as it goes off through the desert. Concentrating intently on the task at hand, Scoop Vessels. He's got to beat one man, and that's Robby Gordon.
And there is Tony Becker sitting next to Dave Shoppe in the General Tire Ford as they are now underway with one of our two onboard cameras. And as you said earlier, it really is too late now to turn back, Jerry.
They're heading out into a real adventure, I'll tell you, Marty.
Already out on course. This is Danny Lentner, winner at the Parker 400 and Nevada 500 this year. And he is one of several members of the Over 50 Club.
Now, here comes defending class champion Bob Gordon. Unlike his son Robby, Bob is still looking for some victories this year.
Remember, there are 200 vehicles racing, so it will take a while for everyone to get underway. And back at the starting line, Class 7 is just starting. That is the Roger Mears Class 7 Budweiser Nissan.
That is the most consistent vehicle he's run in a long time, since his Jeep days back in the 70s.
And right behind him will be Manny Esquerra, trailing by a single point, but it must feel like much more because Mears has been on a roll lately, while Manny has struggled since midway through this season. Class 7S leader, Rob MacCachren.
Rob has won this race overall before in a buggy. He only needs a good, consistent race here to keep his points lead in this class.
And here is the second of our two in-car cameras, Scott Douglas in the B.F. Goodrich Ford. And, Jerry, what's that vehicle in front of him?
Well, the game in this class, Marty, is to start in stock configuration, then immediately stop and have your windshield removed. That's what the truck in front of them has already done. And the explanation is that it's cooler to run without the windshield. But it's not that hot out here today by any means. I happen to think the windshield is one of the greatest inventions ever for this particular sport.
Well, especially for our in-car cameras. If you've been with us before, you know that that has been a problem with stones being kicked up and breaking the cameras. And yes, that's exactly what they're doing here, pulling over, popping the windshield off, and the guys are back underway. And they're loving it right now, but I don't know if I'd be so happy about it if I had to eat all that dust.
Without a windshield, everything comes right through the windshield. Dust, rocks, cactus. I've even had a snake come through there before.
Stay with us. Back with more of the Gold Coast 300 after this. We're at the Gold Coast 300. Marty, Reid, and Jerry Garrett with you, and that is Stuart Chase and Steve Barlow. They finished in the top 10 last time out at the Nevada 500, coming off a strong performance there. And in Class 1, the Iron Man, Ivan Stewart, already leading.
Ivan says if this truck makes it through the first couple of miles, there's a pretty good chance it'll go all the way. So that's what he's got his fingers crossed for right now.
In Class 8, Robby Gordon has moved into the early lead. It has been a hectic couple of weeks for the 20-year-old from Orange, California. He has been offered 2 rides, one with Ford for both the Desert and Stadium Series, and another package with Toyota, and he has finally made his decision.
Well, next year I will be racing for Ford Motor Company in the Stadium Racing and the Desert Series. Russ Werdemann is going to build a new Ford Ranger to race in the Stadium, and then we're going to build a new F-150 to run in the desert.
There's an element of the deal also that you get to run some road course races with Jack Roush in GTO.
Yeah, there is some opportunities to run some pavement racing, so that's why it worked out a little bit better for 1990 to go with the Ford opportunity.
Well, he has definitely pushed Class 8 to a new level of competition. You no longer can pace yourself. You've got to run flat out. You want to see why? Take a look at this.
He started out racing motorcycles, Marty, and I can see he's still comfortable being on 2 wheels.
Look at that. I mean, the bicycle action there, you don't really see it when it's at regular speed, but there in the slow motion, you can see just how close he pushes it to the edge. Back inside with Dave, Shoppe, and Tony Becker, and we're going to have to apologize a little bit for audio. We're getting some interference from their radio on the in-car, and we've also found out that they may be having some troubles with their radio as far as their headset microphone, so they may have to go to the hand mic. We'll find out when we try and communicate with Tony Becker the first time during the event.
Well, the General Tire Ford is running very well except for that radio problem, and Tony's getting quite a ride.
Well, here they come up on one of the bridges. That's what it looks like from outside the vehicle. Oh, yes, Tony, aren't you glad you're inside there right now?
I hope Tony liked what he had for breakfast today, because he may see it again at this rate.
Well, there is Grant George and the Armstrong Funko Mazda still going in the early part of the race, kicking up a lot of dust.
Number 1 starter, Corky McMillin, has fallen back into 2nd place. He's still in the lead physically on the course, but on time, he trails the car running 3rd on the course out here now. I hope that's not confusing, because in the old days, everybody used to start all at once, land rush style, but that proved to be too dangerous and tough on the environment, so now they stagger the start times.
And he's another member of that 50 club. That is for gentlemen racers over the age of 50, and here comes one of the senior members, Danny Lentner.
And his co-driver, by the way, is even older than he is. Henry Bergdahl is 64.
Greg Simons, I think, is the oldest, if I'm not mistaken, at 68, and he's still out here today and doing quite well.
Now here's the car that is actually first in the race at this point, Aaron and Steve Hawley.
Despite the dust, they've jumped to that early lead. Here is Roger Mears and Tony Alvarez fighting the dust as well. What happens is it's just like a cloud hanging over you, and to tell you the truth, if you were a pilot, you'd have to fly by instruments. Let's check in with Tony Alvarez and see how bad it really is. Listen, bring us up to date. The dust, we're having a hard time finding you guys from up here. What's it like down there?
Real bad. As you can see, we went off the course there with all this dust. You can't see a thing. It's a slow pace for the first lap. It'll clear up, though.
How about the situation of not being able to pre-run? Does it make you guys feel like you're walking on eggs or something?
Kind of edgy, but it makes it a little fair for pretty much everybody.
Have you had any problems up to this point?
Not at all, Marty. The Nissan's running great.
Well, we're losing contact with you in the dust again. We'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot.
See you, Marty.
Seems like we can never win. It's either too much wind or not enough. Here we are inside again with Scott Douglas. And before the race, we talked to him about his strategy. After all, he has to make up 15 points on leader Rob MacCachren with only 2 events to go on this year's tour.
We're going to run this race just as fast as the truck will go right off the bat. We're going to lean on the BF Goodrich Ford Ranger for all it's worth. And then when we go for the 1,000, we'll use our pit strategy and try and go after that race a little bit different.
Now Scott is trying to run a little bit left of the dust being kicked up by the truck in front of him, but he's a little limited about how far out he can go here by concerns for the desert tortoise environment. Whoa, and when you get out here off the course like that, that's what can happen to you.
And we were talking earlier about taking that windscreen out, and that's a perfect example. Look, they're trying to clean off their goggles and faces a little bit, and I wish they'd clean off the in-car camera too. Let's take another look at it, Jared.
Well, without that windshield in, I mean, Marty, it's just like running with a scoop shovel up front. Look at that thing. Boom! Lights out.
That is a wave of dust, and you literally cannot see a thing until it starts to clear. Let's go back up top with Tony Becker. The helmet microphone is broken, but we can make communication. Tony, bring us up to date on what's going on in the battle.
Marty, I'm going to have to wing it because I can't hear you. Not too bad of a ride. I'm fairly comfortable. Shoppe sure knows what he's doing, so I feel I'm in good hands. And we're trying to win a race.
Have you had any problems? Have you had any problems?
Sorry about the trouble with communications.
Okay, other than the communications, everything's fine. All right, we'll check back with you later. Well, let's take a look at the leaderboard here in lap 1 of the Gold Coast 300 as you look at the cloud dust layer below. The Hollies in first, Corky McMillin in second, followed by 4 Class 8 trucks.
Then 7th overall, first in Class 1 is Ivan Stewart, followed by 3 more Class 2 buggies.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Gold Coast 300 after this. Welcome back to the Gold Coast 300. Marty Reid along with Jerry Garrett, and we're getting our first look of the day at Rod Hall, the leader in Class 4, and he has got the hammer down.
We expected Class 4 points leader Jack Johnson to just run away with this thing today, but he can't catch Rodney.
Well, that is Ken Kincaid. To give you an idea, he is a Class 8 truck, started well in front of Rod Hall, but he's already been past Ken from Crandon, Wisconsin, and more used to the short course races than out here in the desert. Here comes Fireworks 250 winner Steve Kelly.
This is a good truck, Marty. It's won a lot of races, but Clive Smith is going to build a new one for Steve for next year.
In third place in the class, a surprising third, is Jack Johnson.
Yeah, we expected him to really take off and run away with this thing since the points race is all wrapped up, but he's really not gone anyplace yet.
Here is the leader in Class 8, Robby Gordon. And what else? Pedal down. Truck sliding sideways and the dust flying. Steve McEachern is second and running well, but 1989 has been disappointing for Steve. He talked about what has kept him out of victory lane before the start of today's race.
It seems like we've had a lot of little small problems with the trucks. Nothing real major, just they keep biting us at the wrong time.
Such as?
Well, we had some transmission problems, heating, that we just couldn't seem to run the car hard enough to stay on the pace without breaking the transmission. So that and just odds and ends.
Well, we call him Silent Steve because he is a shy guy. Does not like to do interviews, but he sure does like to drive race trucks and does a good job of it.
Well, I know that he and the team are excited about some recent breakthroughs in testing. We'll see if they carry over to today.
There's Frank Vessels. He's moved past Walker Evans into third place in Class 8. Speaking of Walker, there he is, coming off his heavy metal win at the Brush Run 101, and he's captured second place in the Drivers' Championship in the Stadium Series. It's been a pretty good year for him.
Now, here are Paul and Dave Simon. They are out in front in Class 7 4x4, just as they've been all year.
And they basically could put a lock on the championship with just a finish today.
Well, they consolidated their operation this year from 2 trucks down to just 1, and it's really paid off with some consistent finishes for them.
In second place, another Ford, this one driven by 29-year-old Jonathan Swift from Oxnard, California.
He has a vehicle with an electronic ignition in there, no carburetor, but it is very fast out here in the desert. Hasn't finished any races yet, though.
Still in the experimental stage. Another of the top drivers in the class is Mike Leslie. He won the 7S championship last year and moved into 7 4x4 this season. And when you see Mike working at home in Lake Elsinore, California, you understand why he is driven to win. Mike Leslie's life has changed a lot since he first went off-road racing in a Baja Bug in 1984. Today, he's a major part of Jeep's factory effort in the Desert Racing Series, winning championships and even making TV commercials.
Jeep Racing Team, the winningest team in off-road racing, goes nowhere without Craftsman tools.
But Mike has discovered that after 6 days of shooting for one 30-second commercial, it's easier to go racing.
It's a lot of the same thing over and over. Make sure you get it right, and when you think you got it right, they don't, and so you do it again.
Keeping pace with this 28-year-old, you understand quickly why repetition would wear thin. Upon returning to his office in Corona, California, Mike buried himself in a stack of blueprints for his plastering business. It's a $4 million a year venture that employs 80 people. And if he needs to check on the race team, well, it's located in the same building. Wife Madeline understands him best.
And he's just so driven to win, and he's always been that way in everything he does. He wants to win, and when he wants to do something, he won't stop.
That same intensity transfers to the couple's children when Mike comes home.
Let's race the trucks.
Okay, wait, I'm not. Here I go.
Oh man, you're too reckless. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the next race?
Me.
Mike and Madeline make a special effort to give 4-year-old Travis, 2-year-old Tara, and newborn Talon quality time because they know quantity has become scarce.
It's pretty tough sometimes, especially like when I'm away, like shooting the commercial. You know, I call home and my kids are saying, "Oh, Dad, come home," you know, and you can't.
Dad may not always be able to come right home, but he has been able to keep his meteoric rise in the off-road racing world in perspective.
I don't look at it as being a great racer or anything. I more or less, you know, now I'm on a factory level to where I get paid to go and perform just like on my daily job. And that's pretty much how I approach it and how I look at it. I don't look at it as I'm good or I'm better than anybody else. It's just a job and somebody does it, and I'm just lucky enough that I'm the one that gets to go do it.
Well, we want to send our thanks to Mike and Madeline, especially because they did not make us help clean up all those toys in the living room. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have more of the Gold Coast 300 from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome back to the Gold Coast 300. Marty Reid along with Jerry Garrett, and that is Roger Mears going through the checkpoint and leading Class 7.
You know, it is Roger's goal, Marty, to make this Nissan pickup as big a winner out here in the Desert Racing Series as the Nissan GTP car is in sports car racing. That's a tall order, but if he can win today, he'll have won 3 out of the last 4 races.
Well, while things are going well for Mears, it has been just the opposite for Manny Esquerra. The 10-time score H.D.R.A. champion makes no bones about it. Confidence is lacking, and there are problems on his team that he must solve.
Well, I hate to say it, but I don't have that much confidence. I feel like I'm on the bubble right now, and the team hasn't really been working together like they should. We just got to work a little bit harder and make sure that we do finish these races. We're trying a new motor. It's got some good potential, and we're going to go ahead and give it a shot this time, and I think we'll do well.
What do you have to do different?
Well, our chase crews have been hurting. You know, they don't get where I need them at the right times. Wrong parts in the wrong truck. We need available parts in each truck, any chase support truck, and they got to be there to meet me. And radio communication is real important. We don't have that. Usually when in the race it fails, and that's when you don't want it to fail.
I guarantee you, a 10-time champion, he'll find the answers. Whoa! That is Len Newman's car dangling on the edge of that area we talked about, McCullough Pass.
It's a very dangerous corner they went around, and they almost dropped off into that canyon there.
Co-driver, as you see Rodney Hall go by, is Michael Gaughan with Len Newman. Michael was not in the car. He's the owner of the Gold Coast Hotel, sponsor of the race, and it looks like he's not going to get a chance to drive today. We can tell you Len Newman is all right, but boy, any further and it would have rolled all the way to the bottom.
And down in the bottom of that canyon, there's some high voltage power lines there. You could put Los Angeles in the dark if you weren't careful.
Well, Rod Hall gingerly maneuvering. You can see just how big the drop-off is. Now, here comes Steve Kelly by the accident location, and I guarantee you every driver that goes by that car, it'll get his attention to slow down just a touch because you can see how steep the drop really is. And here comes Steve McEachern pulling into the pits. He is first in Class 8, second overall.
Now, Marty, we just had him clocked at 123 miles an hour through the pit road radar here, and that's as fast as anybody's gone through here.
Knockoff hubs being removed on the right-hand side of the vehicle. They'll change the tires, put fresh rubber and a full tank of fuel on board as Stewart Chase goes by and moves up a notch at least momentarily, but they're having some trouble, Jerry. Left rear tire.
Well, they can't get that knockoff off, and you see how deep it is into that wheel well. Can't really get a good angle on it with that hammer.
Well, it finally comes loose, but it's cost them a few valuable seconds. They'll make the tire change. Meanwhile, Steve looks on and waits for the word to go. Out on course, Bob Gordon has moved into 4th place overall.
But he's reported to be having some steering box problems, and that's been a problem for Rod Hall, we understand, too, and that slowed him down in that Class 4 battle.
McEachern finally gets the signal and is pulling back out. First in Class 8, as we pointed out, second overall. He maintains his position. But wait a minute. This is Frank Vessels, out of fuel just a few miles from the pits, and this will definitely drop him down in the standings.
You know, he's been trying to stretch his fuel stops out as far as he could this year. He did that successfully last year at the Baja to win the race. Now, to give you an idea how much time Scoop is losing, here is Robby Gordon already in the pits, ready to pull out after his pit stop. Let's go to Marty, who has caught up with crew chief Russ Wernemont, and ask him about how things are going on Robbie's truck.
Russ Wernemont, you guys are in a real dogfight today.
Right, things are going pretty decent, really. We've had a couple flat tires. The course is extremely rough and rocky. I'd say that everybody's going to be having a lot of flats today, and we had an excellent pit stop here and got all the tires changed and the car serviced, and it should be in good shape to make it the rest of the way around.
Halfway through, Steve McEachern, the surprise leader. Everybody thought it would be between you and Vessels.
Well, Scoop's back a little ways right now, and as far as the points go, we're worried about Scoop for the whole year, and McEachern is running real well right now, but Robbie's hanging real close to him, and we'll just wait and see who's got anything left on the last lap to go racing.
And Scoop Vessels continues to lose time. The General Tire Ford of Dave Shoppe and Tony Becker has now moved into third place in Class 8.
Now, you may wonder why we were talking to Tony all the time on the radio. Dave told us that he used to be a captain in the fire department before he went racing, and he used to have to listen to radios even in his sleep to hear the fire calls. He hates it so much, he refuses to talk on the radio. Well, let's take a look at the standings in lap 2 of the Gold Coast 300. The Hollies are still in first, followed by Steve McEachern.
And in the second 5, you notice that Frank Vessels' fuel mistake has dropped him all the way down to 10.
Stay with us. Back with more at the Gold Coast 300. Marty Reid and Jerry Garrett, and that is Frank Vessels. He has finally found some fuel and has made it back to the pits, but he is in 10th place. And we found out, Jerry, he also had a bent tie rod earlier in the event. That's what put him down to begin with.
Now back inside the B.F. Goodrich Ford with Scott Douglas, who is now leading Class 7S by 10 minutes over Willie Valdez.
Let's just sit back and enjoy the ride, if you can. Awfully rough, and that was only for about 20 seconds. Can you imagine doing that for hours on end? This is Rob MacCachren running third right now. He's 14 minutes behind Scott Douglas.
No real problems for him. He's just running the pace he wants to run here.
John and Chuck Johnson were running third after the first lap, but they obviously have problems. Let's see if Johnny Johnson can tell us exactly what happened to the truck.
Just blew the transmission all over the ground. I got reversed. We backed up here, and then we got one coming.
So we're leading the class, weren't you?
No, but we were in a hunt. We were right there, having a great time. Yeah, when you blow only 4 gears, we got reversed, but I can't back up through the bridge. Otherwise, I try to back in, but it's so silty, I can't make it backwards.
He would back it up if he could. Meanwhile, in Class 7, Roger Mears continues to build up a lead over Manny Esquerra. It's now up to 12 minutes, and just as Esquerra's team is looking for answers, Mears is basking in confidence.
That's true. Our team is really up. That's something that in the last couple of years our team has really started to gel. We've got some real good guys, and I think that's the real key to the whole thing is having good guys that are really coming together as a team, and then getting a few wins is in the stadium and also in the desert has just really got everybody going, everybody pumped up, and my guys everybody's just elated. And it does. You can feel it. It just generates kind of everything just kind of starts happening. Feels good.
And it's going well for Roger Mears. Here is Manny Esquerra in second place. And Jerry, besides all the troubles he's having getting the team sorted out, there are possible problems for the entire class.
Well, to survive as a class, you have to have a minimum of 6 entries on the average for the year. They've fallen below that this year, so the class could be abolished at the year-end meetings. But rest assured, Roger and Manny will race somewhere in some class next year.
Manny Esquerra trying to reel in Roger Mears. He's 12 minutes behind at this point. Whoa! Just as we come to Robby Gordon, the right rear wheel has sheared off. Now, he was running second behind Steve McEachern in Class 8, but, Jerry, this looks serious.
Well, I don't know exactly what's happened. We're going to have to go down and take a look at this right now, but he could have lost the spindle. He could have lost the whole rear hub assembly. He's going to need some major assistance here.
McEachern will get some more breathing room. In fact, he can start concentrating on the overall title because he's in first place. We found out just now that the Hawleys have broken down. Here comes Don Adams in the Class 3 Jeep going by Robby Gordon's broken down Class A truck. And Adams is second in Class 3 behind Dave Ashley. And there is the wheel that came shearing off the Class 8 Ford of Robby Gordon.
Yeah, and they're going to need a welder to fix that, Marty. They've got to fix it because they've got to finish this race to get the points. And they're about as far away from help on this course as they can possibly be. Now coming into view, Dave Shoppe and Tony Becker. They're going to pick up a position here, move into second place in the class and 5th overall. I think it's going to take at least a couple of hours for Robby to fix this problem. Let's go to Marty Reid, who's caught up with Robby on the ground, and have a chat with him.
Looked like everything literally just came apart.
Yeah.
Did you hit something?
No. Just finally broke, you know. One of those things, got to learn where they're at, the problems.
Do you have any idea what could have caused it? Just maybe fatigue or what?
I don't know. It's a very rough course, and, you know, we haven't had no problems with the parts before. We magnaflux them after every race.
Are you history for today?
Don't count us out. We'll get a welder out here and get a welder back up. We got to finish for the points.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Now, this is Matt McBride, the leader in Class 2. He is in second place overall. Well, Matt was left without a ride here recently when his co-driver Steve Serapis pulled out of the series and took his car with him. David Chrysler gave Matt that car for this race.
And this is Mark McMillin climbing into the top 10 for the first time today. He is in 6th place overall and closing fast.
Usually Mark has raced that buggy in Class 1, but I guess he's found somebody who wants to ride with him today.
Well, this is not a routine stop for Dave Shoppe and the General Tire Ford. That is one of the emergency pit areas for their team. The question is, what's wrong? And the man who can answer that for us is Tony Becker.
Tony Becker, this is Marty Reid right above you again. We noticed you pulled over to the side. Can you tell us what's wrong?
Looks like we had a little bit of trouble with the rear caliper. We got one of our pit crew beating it back on, and we're going to go out there and see what we can do.
Well, it looks like they're going to press on. We'll have to keep our eye on it. They are doing well here at the Gold Coast 300. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of the race after this. Marty Reid and Jerry Garrett back with you at the Gold Coast 300, and that is Brian Stewart that you're looking at. He's in the pits for a routine stop in his Class 6 Jeep.
Pretty good day so far out here for the Stewart family, Marty. He is leading Class 6, as we mentioned, and his father, Ivan Stewart, is leading Class 1.
In fact, here comes the Iron Man into view. He has had several problems, though, as far as downtime, but so is everybody else in the class. Ivan is well out of the top 10 overall battle right now, but as we said, leading Class 1. In Class 3, the leader is Dave Ashley, and that's a familiar spot for him.
Well, a Fairway Ford race team has dominated Class 3 all year, but there's been lots of complaints from other competitors in this class about changes that have been made in that car, and changes aren't allowed under this class's rules.
Other class leaders we can bring you up to date on. Steve Kelly has taken over the Class 4 lead. Rod Hall has rolled the truck and is out of the race.
The report is that those steering problems that he was having earlier continued to bite him and finally caused him to roll over.
Kevin and Brian Smith are leading Class 1-2-1600. Kevin is 18 years old. Brian is 22.
1-2-1600 is the class out here today with the most entries. They have 28 starters.
Class 5, Unlimited Baja Bugs. That's Bill Hernquist and Darren Hardesty leading the way. And in Class 9, Rich Richardson and Kevin Perot lead the pack.
In Class 10, here is Michael Church. He is leading the race, even though he is reported to have no brakes.
Well, his father, Bill Church, won the Nevada 500 in Class 1.
And he leads the point standings in that class.
Ramon Castro is the top gun in Class 11, and you have got to have strong kidneys because that is a stock VW, and you feel every bounce. And here is the man that everybody is chasing, leading overall, Steve McEachern. In fact, let's check the leaderboard here in lap 3. Behind McEachern is Matt McBride, Frank Vessels, Mark McMillin, and Roger Mears is 5th.
Now looking at the second 5, Walker Evans has moved back up into 9th after fixing some transmission trouble, and the Smiths are 10th in the Class 1600 machine. But missing from the leaderboard, Dave Shoppe and Tony Becker. The team is out, and Marty Reid is caught up to talk with them.
Dave, this was not in the scenario the way you wanted it. You wanted this interview to be in victory lane, and I know both of you are very disappointed.
Well, I am, Marty. You know, we were running pretty good today, and we were really having a good time out there. And to be honest with you, you know, I kind of start slow, especially in this race, not pre-running, and we were kind of opening the car up and seeing what we had, and the motor just went away. So we've had real good luck with our engines. It's just one of those things.
You gave us some good reports from inside the cockpit. Now that it's over for you, how do you feel?
Tell you the truth, the only thing on my mind, a little disappointed for the team, for the whole team. It's hard not to get caught up in it. There's some real great guys involved with this, and Dave is an incredible driver. I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they can stay out there that long. I was questioning the 4th lap, you know. We were running real strong. Now I feel good. I'm just, it's too bad as the way things have turned out. We were way up there.
Well, he did a great job for us from inside the cockpit. Did he do a good enough job? You might want him back?
Well, I'll tell you right now, we're going to win a race with him in the car. I promise you that. How's that?
Okay, we'll see you next time out, guys.
All right. Thanks, Marty.
All right, thank you, Marty.
Well, this could be a good day for Walker Evans Racing. Walker himself is in 3rd in Class 8, and his teammate Steve McEachern is leading for the overall.
Frank Vessels has made up a lot of ground with Robby Gordon going down for repairs. You know, this is the first race that truck builder Jon Nelson has not been at Vessels' side. Before the race, we talked to Jon, and he explained why he has retired from competitive action.
Well, I've got a real good co-driver, a new employee of mine, Chris Robinson, and I just feel that I can do a lot better job outside the car in strategy, in, you know, wrenching on the car if there's potential problems. And to, you know, be frank with you, I really don't want to go that fast anymore. The speeds have escalated so high in this Class 8 battle with Robby and Walker and everybody running so hard. You know, I really like my wife and kids, you know, and I just want to stay around.
Nothing like a little honesty. The speeds have definitely increased in this sport over the last couple of years. And here's the view from inside with Scott Douglas in the BF Goodrich Ford, and you can see why the speeds can be a little frightening when you look off the edge of McCullough Pass.
Well, Scott is doing a great job of giving our in-car camera some good pictures today. He's having a good outing for himself, leading in Class 7S still.
We can tell you that Robby MacCachren has passed Willie Valdez for 2nd, and other entries that have dropped out, Mike Leslie, unfortunately, is out of the race. Rod Hall is out of the race. Robby Gordon is again running, but he is a full lap down. Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Gold Coast 300 right after this. Welcome back to the Gold Coast 300. Marty Reid and Jerry Garrett, and that is Steve McEachern making the final dash for the checkered flag. It would be his first win since joining the Walker Evans Racing team.
Now, hot on his heels, Matt McBride, 2nd overall, is down to whoever makes the least mistakes will win this race.
3rd place overall in an outstanding comeback effort, Frank Vessels. Remember the last time, Jerry, we talked about Frank. He was 10th overall, but through attrition and also through picking up the pace, with Robby Gordon going down, it must have been a big incentive for him because he has moved up well.
Well, he wants to score points. He does not want it to come down to the last race if possible. He wants to clinch this championship early if he can.
Well, here's Mark McMillin moving into 4th overall and getting ready to lap the Class 8 truck of Frank Mancha. And you can hear him on the horn saying, Frank, come on, buddy. Get out of the way. Let me by. I'm trying to catch up to those leaders.
Nowhere for him to go, though. It's a one-lane track here.
Ed and Tim Herbst are in a duel for 5th overall with Roger Mears. Can you believe it? When was the last time we talked about a Class 7 truck being in the top 10 overall?
I don't think there has ever been one in the top 5 overall.
Well, this is Mears coming up on a slower vehicle. That is Rick Newton and Larry Tunnell in their Class 6 car. They are in 2nd in Class 6 behind Brian Stewart. But here is the man of the moment, just a few miles from the finish line, Steve McEachern. He's had a near flawless drive. Let's check in with him through our air-to-ground system.
No one else seems to want to win this race but you. Have you had any problems this afternoon?
Not whatsoever.
Has this been the smoothest race of your career?
I tell you the truth, I think I might have a flat right this minute.
Well, we'll keep an eye on you to see what happens. Can you tell us which wheel? Because with all the dust, it's certainly doesn't look like it's the right side.
Still at the front.
You're going to try and limp it on home, or will you pull over?
I'll pull over up here.
Well, let's go back and perhaps pick out the moment when Steve's tire might have given way.
Well, as he goes over this bump right here, whomp, all 4,100 pounds comes down on those front wheels.
So Steve McEachern now has to pull over and change a left front tire. It's the first problem he's had all day long. The question is now, how fast can they change a flat? Because, you know, breathing down their necks, Matt McBride and Rick West, they're running against the clock, and there they are streaking for the finish line. And the question is, have they been made aware of the problems facing McEachern?
I think Steve will fix this very quickly. He's got his crew chief, Jeff Geiser, riding along with him as co-rider, and Jeff will get this solved in a hurry.
Well, there is Matt McBride and Rick West alongside. Rick looking over, giving us a thumbs-up sign, so obviously things are well inside that vehicle.
The only problem that they've had today, Marty, is that they've got too small of a gas tank on this car. They've had to make an extra fuel stop, and if they had been able to eliminate that, nobody would have caught him.
This is amazing when you think that this is basically a totally new car for him.
Yeah, and it was a rebuild after a rollover in the last race. They don't know what they've got here. This will be the first time for them to win and for the car to win.
Well, hold your breath, because McEachern is running again, and it is now a race to the finish line, and we are literally waiting for them to round the final bend to come streaking for the line. Who is going to cross it first and then keep the clocks running, because it is a timed race. Remember, you are running against the clock, and here comes Matt McBride to cross the finish line. He will definitely win Class 2, but the question is, what about the overall? So now we'll turn our attention back up that long final straightaway to the last short left-handed bend, waiting to see when Steve McEachern comes rolling around, and here he comes, Jerry, heading for the finish line.
Well, he has definitely got Class 8 in hand, and unofficially on our clocks, it looked like he has the overall title as well. Big win for Steve, the first time he's ever won an overall in a race, and he has really shown us something today with that big Dodge, and I think that's going to be a vehicle that can be reckoned with in future races here. Now, Marty has made his way down to talk to Class 2 champion Matt McBride. Go ahead, Marty.
Well, first across the line, questionable whether or not you'll get the overall, but you certainly got Class 2. Congratulations.
Thanks. It was a flawless run for us. We had one bent wheel we had to take off. We had no flats. My crew did a great job. What more can we say? It's a good day.
This was a heavy race for attrition. I mean, every time we seemed to get above somebody, they'd be braking almost immediately.
Yeah, we set off with a pace, and we kept it all day long, and we knew it was going to, get us in the top 3, and the last lap, everything fell together for us.
Did a great job. Congratulations.
Thanks, Marty.
Now into the finish line, here comes Frank Vessels, 3rd overall, 2nd in Class 8, well ahead of rival Robby Gordon. Now let's go to Marty with Steve McEachern, our winner.
We joked about one of these days soon you might have to talk in Victory Lane. Yeah. You don't like to do these interviews, but do you think you might like doing this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
You, unfortunately, the one problem that you apparently had was while we were hovering over top of you.
Right, I had one flat.
It was a stupendous day for you.
Thank you. Everything went well. I mean, other than the flat, I don't know what to say.
Well, in another outstanding performance, here comes Roger Mears to win Class 7, and he's going to finish 6th overall. It has been a long time since any Class 7 has finished that high, maybe never.
And in Class 7S, Scott Douglas will narrow the gap on Rob MacCachren as he pulls across the finish line first in Class 7S. Meanwhile, Jerry Garrett has caught up with Roger Mears. Jerry?
No, I'll tell you, it's we were down in a slump there for a while, but it sure feels good to be on the upside, and I know all the team is just elated, and that's what you can feel it. It's the team is just started forward. It feels like kind of we've just kind of gelled, and it's really coming together nice. Not only in the desert, but the stadium too.
Well, stay with us. We'll be back to check the final results when we come back to the Gold Coast 300. Back at the Gold Coast 300 to check the final results, Jerry.
Steve McEachern and Frank Vessels both in the top 5 in Class 8 trucks. Down in the second 5, Roger Mears leading in Class 7, comes in 6th overall, and 2 1600 vehicles in 9th and 10th. Quite an accomplishment for a vehicle with a small motor.
Let's bring you up to date on the points championships. In Class 8, Frank Vessels has stretched his lead over Robby Gordon by 18 points. While in Class 7, Roger Mears has stretched his lead over Manny Esquerra to only 2. It was 1 going into today's event. And in Class 7S, Rob MacCachren's lead over Scott Douglas has been narrowed from 15 to 6 points. Now, as we say goodbye, we want to show you the class winners in today's Gold Coast 300. And we also want to send some special thanks to some people who make our job a lot easier out here in the desert. The gang at Spirit Racing. Without their help, we just could not do it. Today's Gold Coast 300 was brought to you by Firestone. Watch us, we're on the move. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. For Jerry Garrett, I'm Marty Reid. See you next time when we bring you the Baja 1000 on ESPN's Speed World.